This conference will now be recorded.
So, in the last class, we covered the creation of the interface. So, what are the ways we can create and what is the purpose of interface? So, we observed. So, so again, we will see the few minutes. So, the creation of the interfaces. So, this is the way of creation of interfaces. So, we need to make it the keyword as an interface and test. So, inside the interface, so method needs to provide declaration. So, so this is the way of declaring the method. So void callback in parents. And so how we can observe the method is declared or the method is initialized. So by seeing the end of the semicolon, so we can observe the method is declared or the method is initialized. So and we need to implement like the test. So once we implement the test interface, so whatever the methods are available in the test, so those needs to implemented by the implementation class. What is the class here? Test class. So in the test class, so we need to implement. So how many methods are available in the interface? So this is the way of creation of the interface. And now we will see so nested interfaces. So now we will see nested interfaces. So what is mean by nested? So nested is nothing but so inside the interface, if you are trying to create one more interface, so we can call it as nested interface. Or so if we have a class, if we are trying to create one more interface inside the class, so these also we can known as a nested interface. But that is a member interface also we can call it as. Member means so the class having some of the properties like the variables and methods, so that we are making a member interface. So while creating in inside the class, inside the class, creating an interface. So normally, if you create inside the one more interface, so we can call it as nested interface. We can call it as. So for example, so see how we can see the way of creation of nested interface. So for example, I have a class. For example, I'm reviewing all of the code. So class I have a class. So what is the class name here I'm taking? Test. I'm taking the class name test. And the class test contain. So so here the class name called test. So inside the class I'm trying to create one more interface. So how we can create? So inter public interface nested interface I'm creating. Public interface nested interface I'm creating and void test method uh, nested test. So nested test method I make it. So see, so we have it. class. What is the name of the class here is test. So inside the class, I'm trying to create one more interface. So what is the interface here? Nested interface. In the nested interface, we have a method called nested test. So nested test. So now how we can implement the nested test method. So whatever the method which we make, like which we implement, which we declare in the interface. So the method needs to implement, right? So the method needs to implement. So that is the purpose of the interface. So right. So for this, what I am doing here, for this, so I'm trying to create one more class. I'm trying to create one more class. So I'm trying to create one more class called. So here I'm creating one more class, class B. Class B implements class B implements a dot nested interface. Nested interface. So normally we will make it the interface name directly, but here it is a nested interface. It is a nested interface. So that needs to make it. First, we need to make the class name. So that is the class as a test dot nested interface. So what is the test here is this is a top level class. So this is a inside the interface which is available inside the class. So that is test, right? So test dot nested interface. Now what we can do, we can implement, so nested test method. So nested interface method, right? Nested interface method I implemented in B class. So now what I'm doing, I'm closing. So method brace as well as the class. So this is the way. So we can create an object for the we can implement the nested interface information. So we need to take the top level, that is an interface or the class. So first we need to take the reference of the top level, then we can make it. So here we have some door. So we have some access specifiers restriction. So whenever we are creating inside the class or interface, so which is the nested interface, so we need to make public, private and protected. So we can make it the private as well. So whereas in top level class we can't make it the private. So why? Because the interface needs to implement by another class. So that we need to make the access specifiers as a protected or a public. So here we can make it the private because we can create an object or we can implement the nested related information in the top level class. So that is a test class. So that's the reason we can make it the private also. So just be careful because whenever we are creating an asset, it's a class or it is the interface. So we have some restrictions. So that needs to be followed so that we can make our application securely. So this is the way of making a nested interface. Now what we need to do, we need to create an object for the nested information. How we can create it. So here the way is test b b is equals to new b, new b and b dot nested test. So normally, so we can create an object of the implementation class and we will call the particular method which we implemented. So now we have another way. We have another way. what is the way here is test is the top level class, and inside the test we have a nested interface, right? So this is the reference of creation of object new b. So nested dot nested test. So this is the one more way of creating an object. So how we are calling, so test is in top level class and dot nested interface. So because the B is implementation of nested interface only. Here we implemented, right? So that we can take, but here we have some restrictions. So if we are trying to call the specific method which we implemented in B class, so here we are going to get an here we are going to get an error. So now we will see how the nested informations are going to work. We will run an so we have already have a same name test class entity. So we don't have a test class, and go to command prompt. Java C test class or Java. So it's compiled successfully, right? So once it's compiled successfully, now we need to implement the nested interface. How we can implement class nested implement nested implements and implements test class dot nested. So what is the interface we have? Nested interface. We have an interface called nested interface, and so we need to write the method called, what is the method? Nested test. Nested method. So we need to save this class also. So now we have a main method, but we need to create the main method. So public class nested implementation test. Public static void main. So here string args. So now Simply I'm creating an object for nested implementation class. So nested I'm taking. So nested dot nested. What is the method we have? Nested test. Java C nested implement test dot Java. So what is showing? Nested test is nested implement cannot implement. Okay. So we need to make, see, by seeing the error we can observe, right? Attempting to assign the beaker access privileges was public. So beacon access privilege means we did not provide any access specifiers. See, so did we provide any access specifiers here? We did not provide. So go to the test class, make it public. Again compile. So it's compiled successfully. So have you observed the compilation here? So the previously we have attempting to assign the beaker access privileges. Now that is gone. So it's compiled successfully. So this is the way we can restrict the some of the access like some of the object using the access specifiers. So that's the reason I am saying this is very much important, access specifiers. Wherever we are using any project or any real-time application, so we need to make sure so provide the correct access specifiers. Now, now what we need to do? Java C nested implements, nested implements, nested implement. So now, so nested method is called, right? Nested method is called. Now, now, see, nested method is called the. So method is executed so that the some println method we provided, right? So it's showing some output on the console. Now, what we need to do? Now, so now I'm changing to. Now I'm changing to. Now I'm changing to test class dot. What is that here? Nested interface. Test class dot nested interface and nested. Now I'm commenting out this line. I'm commenting above object. Now we are seeing, so now we are executing the implementation time, because the previous is a implementation class. This is an implementation of interface type. This is, see the difference. See the difference properly so that so clear the screen. Again compile. So it compiled successfully and execute. So again we got an output, same nested method. Again we got an output called nested method, right? So this is the way of creating an object of nested interface. Now I have a doubt. So what is the doubt I am making here is public void just simple test method I am creating. So in the test method, system dot out dot system dot out dot println normal test method. Normal test method I am taking. I am closing the braces. So what I am doing now, I am calling the normal test method nested dot test. See, so I save both clear compile. So we got in some error. So cannot find the symbol it's showing. Why it's showing we cannot find the symbol? So see, because it is a what type? It is an interface type. So it's checking in the interface next test method. But the test method we did not provided at interface level, but we made the test method in the implementation class. So right, so this is an nested implements. So the method available only in implementation class. So if we see the test class interface, so we don't have a test method. So now if you make the test method, so it simply works. So let me public void test I am creating. Clear. So it's compiled successfully. In the previous we have a some error, right? Now the error is gone completed. So but what I'm trying to say here is what I'm trying to say here. So just I'm removing again the test method we don't need because the purpose again I'm commenting this line. Now I'm commenting uh, so so now what I'm doing, so just it is a reference of implementation class. Is the reference of implementation class. Again compile. So nested test. Uh, Something we did not save properly. So see, clear. One second, what is showing? Nested test and nested test have the same ensure public void nested test. Error name clash. So we have two names it's showing. So can you go through that? Nested test. Okay. Nested implementation, nested test. So nested implementation, nested implementation, so nested test is a capital only, right? Yes. So this is not saved properly. Let's come. Let's make some comment. No. Where we are getting test class. Line number 4, name class, nested class, and the nested test as the same ensure. Line number 4, test class. Name clash. The name clash error. So make it properly. Same thing. We're seeing your name clash error. So we'll change it to end test. Let's compile. Nested implementation does not override the abstract nested test class. What is happening here? Closed comments. See, we change the method to nested test. Still is taking nested test. Close. Why is taking nested test? Change to end test. Command prompt. And copy the file. Okay. Yes, it's compiled successfully. Some cache is there, so that's the reason it's not executing properly. Java. So now we got. Now what I'm trying to say here, remove this and then just make it public. Compile. So it's successfully compiled. Execute. So normal test method is executed. So previously when we use interface reference, so when we use interface reference, so we got an error. Now when we use the implementation class, so now it's executing successfully because so when we create a reference any class, so it's trying to check in the particular class. So this is an interface. If this is available interface, it's executing. Otherwise, so we got some cannot find symbol error. Whereas in a nested implementation class, so we define the method, so it's executed, so normally. So that's the main difference because interface is having this some specific features. This is the specific features. So now it's completed. Now it's executed. So this is the way we can create a nested interfaces. So this is the way we can create a nested interface. So now one more I am going to explain one more example we will see so that we can observe the interface behavior. So I'm going to create one more interface call. I'm going to create interface call into stock I'm creating. So into stock into stock we have a two methods. So what are the two methods I'm taking here is, so first one is void push. So void push taking the some integer parameter that is item. So that is item. So next one is returning something form. So here, so we have an interface that is an int star. So what the void push method is trying to save some data into the into stack implementation. So into stack implementation. Now the pop what is going to do? So it retrieves the saved data. Retrieve the saved data. So we have a two methods. We have two methods, right? So now what I am doing? So I am going to create implementation of the empty stack. So I'm going to create implementation of empty stack. Here I'm creating convert into Java class class. So how we can create fixed stack simply stock implement into stack. So once it is implement into stack, once it is implemented to so what we need to do here? So what we need to do? So because so whenever we implement any interface, so we are trying to implement those methods which are available in interface, right? So here I'm taking some parameters like variables, the private variables. Private in into stock, private in TO. So these are the two variables which I taken. So those two variables specific to this class only. So if you are trying to access outside of the class, so again we are going to get an error. So again we are going to get an error. Right now, now. So what I'm doing? So I'm taking one constructor also. I'm taking one constructor here into size. Here I'm taking a fixed size, fixed stock size. I'm taking here fixed stock size. So here stock is equals to new end of size. End of size I'm creating, and EOS is equals to minus 1 and negative. So I'm closing the constructor of the fixed size. I'm closing the constructor of the fixed size. So see the carefully, so that you can observe how I'm creating an object for the fixed size. So now the constructor is completed. So what we need to do? We need to write required push method. We need to implement the push method, right? So the push taking some parameter, right, into item. The push method is taking int item. Here, so here what I'm doing, I'm writing some condition called TOS is equals to stock stock okay stock dot length minus 1 and there. So if TOS, what is the TOS as of now? At 1 minus 1, because when we call the constructor we are assigning some values as TOS minus 1, right? So TOS minus 1 equals to stock length minus 1. What is the length stock? As of now we doesn't know, so let it be leave as soon as possible. Once we create an object of the fixed stack, so that we can aware of what is the length of the stock, right? So now, so if it is then minus 1, so I'm trying to print system dot out dot length stock is full. Stock is full. I am trying to print. So if completed, now we need to write else spot. We need to write else spot. So how I'm writing? See, to here go. So it is in pre-assign increment pre-increment operator within contains. So this is the pre-increment operators. So so now I'm increasing the values to I'm increasing the values. So the toss values I'm increasing, right? So else part is completed. So then close the push method and now write a pop method. Now write a pop method. So implement the pop method. If t was less than 0, stock is underflow means it does not having anything. It does not having anything. This is a help return to. So this is the pop method is completed, right? Push, pop, and those methods are completed. Now closing the fixed start. Now closing the fixed start. So now, so first save the into start. Make I also capital into start and so fixed start. Now test. So I'm creating a test here only. I'm creating a test here only. So again, we don't want to create a test main class. So we can use here. So for the using purpose, so what we need to do, we need to create an object for fixed class, right? So in the fixed class constructor, I'm passing 5 because we need to call it having some single parameter constructor. So 5. So 8. So here I'm making 1. Here I'm making 2. So 1 and 2 objects I created. So one objects are created. I'm creating in a loop. So why I'm creating a loop means, so for every how I can explain, here we have a 5 object we created. Fixed stock how much is the 5. So each object we need to call the push method. We need to call the push method. For this I'm creating in a loop. I'm creating in a loop. That is equal to 0, I less than 5, I less than 5, I plus plus. So I less than 5 plus plus. This is a simple loop. So we already discussed the earlier. So if you have any doubts, please like it in the previous video so that you can aware of it. Start one dot stock one dot push. So here we can pass I value. Here we can pass I value. So we don't need a second answer. We can go to the first one. Close. So start the push is completed. It isn't open. It is returning now into value. save nested implementation test. So already we have a nested implementation test. Again compile. Mm, Not a statement. Go through the text. So these items we are passing, right? So that needs to assign to the task. So it's compiled successfully and execute. See the values of, so let, so ignore the nested method, normal test method. So pop values 43210. So how it's executing? How it's executing? See the, we created an array size is 5. So the 5 arrays object is going to created using this size. So now I'm making toss is equals to -1. So we have a 5 arrays object here. So we have a 5 arrays object stock. So now when we use the stock, because we are increasing the values. Here we are storing the values into stock. So what is the stock value at present? -1. So we are increasing to plus plus. So first time is going to 0, then 1, 2, 3. So up to 4. Up to 4, the object are going to store into stock. Now we are calling task less than 0. So else we are increase return to stock minus minus minus, because here we have up to 4 which got, so we are reducing the values. So that's the reason the values are printing 43210, because from top to 0 we are printing, top to bottom we are printing. So this is the example of implementing implementing interface. So using these two methods, how we can implement. So this is the flow of the execution. Please practice this example so that easily you can get it.